What's good, guys? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for being a part of this journey. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do well to subscribe. My name, of course, is Immanuel, but you know me as Olale Salvador, and this is OSN. And today we have a very heartbreaking, heart-wrenching, shocking, if I may put it, on today's In Case You Missed the Show. And it has to do with certain revelations that are coming out concerning ISIS, Al Qaeda, Boko Haram, and so on and so forth, and how it's linked to USAID as well as the Barack Obama Biden administration. Now, I woke up this morning, obviously checking what's happening on the internet via my social media platform, especially on X, and my oh mind, this video that was put out, or this video that was making the rounds, or catching the trends in virality, had to do with the US Congressman Scott Perry, who is currently a part of a subcommittee responsible for Dodge. Now, if you haven't heard about Dodge is like a makeshift department that was created for Elon Musk and a certain group of people, right? And the whole idea of Dodge is just an abbreviation of delivering on government efficiency. So basically, they're responsible for looking at what the previous government have been wasting money on. They're looking to cut down on frivolous spending and wasteful spending, right? And as a result, there's a subcommittee. Now, this subcommittee on Thursday, according to the new, I'm citing my source from the Punch newspaper, is arguably one of Nigeria's biggest digital newspapers. And it reads, it says, U.S. Congressman Scott Perry has said that USAID agency, which is the United States Agency for International Development, funded terrorist organizations, including Boko Haram. Perry, a Republican representing Pennsylvania, made a claim during the inaugural hearing of the subcommittee on delivering on government efficiency on Thursday, which is Dodge, right? The session titled The War on Waste, Stamping Out the Scourge of Improper Payments and Fraud, focused on alleged misappropriations of taxpayer funds. So if you haven't seen the video that's making the rounds, check this out.
Who gets some of that money? Does that name ring a bell to anybody in the room? Because your money, $697 million annually, plus the shipments of cash funds madrasas, ISIS, Al Qaeda, Boko Haram, ISIS Khorasan, terrorist training camps. That's what it's funding. If you think that the program under Operation Enduring Sentinel, entitled Women's Scholarship Endowment, which receives $60 million annually, or the Young Women Lead, which gets about $5 million annually, is going to women who, by the way, if you read the Inspector General's report, is telling you that the Taliban does not allow women to speak in public. Yet somehow you're believing, and American people are supposed to believe, that this money is going for the betterment of the women in Afghanistan. It is not. You are funding terrorism, and it's coming through USAID. And it's not just Afghanistan, because Pakistan's right next door. USAID spent $840 million in the last 20 years on Pakistan's education-related program. It includes $136 million to build 120 schools, of which there is zero evidence that any of them were built. Why would there be any evidence? The Inspector General can't get in to see them. But you know what? We doubled down and spent $20 million from USAID to create educational television programs for children unable to attend the physical school. Yeah, they can't attend it because it doesn't exist. You paid for it. Somebody else got the money. You are paying for terrorism. This has got to end. I yield, Mr. Chairman.
For me, I find it very, very shocking, very disappointing. And that's because the peak of Boko Haram attacks was pre-Buhari, right? It was pre-Buhari. And even during Buhari's era, there were a few, happenings here and there. But I am going to take you guys to a couple of tweets that this particular revelation has opened a Pandora box on, right? There is a lot happening. And it's so sad because once upon a time, the chief of defense staff, right, Christopher Musa, had an interview with Al Jazeera. And in that interview, he hinted at the fact that there is no way that these terrorist groups continue to do what they do without funding. Now, he didn't want to allege or point fingers, but he just had an inkling that this was suspicious, and this could be within certain international agencies who were funding the terrorist groups, because there were some point in time where when they surrendered, or some of the members of the Boko Haram community, when they surrendered, they noticed hard cash on them. They had cash on them, and they were wondering, where did they get the cash from? Check this video out.
Force. I wonder, in your mind, whether any of this may have strengthened your enemy. We've talked about a period of 15 long years here. We've talked about playing an almighty game of catch-up. But in the meantime, we've seen Boko Haram regroup and regroup and regroup. What is your answer to that? That you have in some way fed the insurgents?
The problem is that I think we've talked to international community. Let's find out the funding. When they started surrendering, by the time we left, so as we speak, we have over 120,000 that have surrendered. Most of them, when you find them, they are coming with hard currencies. How did they get them? How are they funded? How did they get the training? How did they get the equipment?
What is your suspicion?
Well, maybe an international conspiracy. You don't know. Who knows? How are they be able to sustain themselves for 15 years? That is one question I think everybody should ask himself. For Nigeria to be able to hold them, and you go to Nigeria, everything seems to be working well.
You must have an idea. I mean, let's not talk about international conspiracy theories. Let's give some hard facts.
Well, I just leave it at that. I'm sure they know, and I'm sure everybody knows that these are the challenges we're facing, that needs to be addressed. So the UN need to come in to ensure that, because we need to trace the funding. How are they sustaining themselves for 15 years?
What does the UN coming in mean? What does that look like?
Track the funding. It's international flow. We don't have control over.
Now, he calls it an international conspiracy, right? Because it doesn't make sense for 15 years how these guys have been, operating and still being empowered, and they're so powerful in what they do to cause distraction. Now, this did not really hurt me as much as other revelations that were connected to this particular revelation, and that is the Chibok girls, the 276 Chibok girls who got missing, that led to a worldwide campaign of bring back our girls. All of that was fake. All of that was a facade. And I'm so disappointed, because you see, for someone like Barack Obama, who for a very long time has been linked to the death and the destruction of Libya and Gaddafi, and having to hear or having to see that his name has popped up, or his administration has popped up through the guise of international agencies, or international funded agencies, or international NGOs, it's so heartbreaking. It's really, really heartbreaking. Like, listen, the likes of David Hundeyin, who is a very known Nigerian investigative journalist, he has always been on this tangent that, look, these guys are not who they say they are. Even when Trump said he was cutting down and, stopping the activities of USAID, and people were like, oh no, why are you doing that? There's malaria, there's cholera. These guys are helping with, financing and whatnot for our health projects and whatnot. Trump was like, you don't know what's going on. That's why this particular committee hearing is crazy. It's ridiculous. This is where it gets interesting. When ex-president Goodluck Jonathan was in office, right, he also had an interview where he shared that he feels like there is some level of interference in his government. And this was heavily pushed and powered by the APC, which is Buhari.
The level of interference by the Obama's government was very overwhelming. It's not as if I couldn't have won the election even with that. But if, by my own thinking, and also the way some other people look at it, they go outside the normal diplomatic relationship, then it should be mentioned. Sending that person to Nigeria at the eve of election, after Obama even issued a statement directing Nigerians to vote for the next chapter, that tells you something. And we should not sweep these things under the carpet. If a foreign country, or an African country, or even America or any other country interferes with our own elections, we should mention it. Immediately the Chibok issue came up, we expect Nigerians to be concerned. How do we get these girls out? Within a couple of days, we saw people going to the US would bring back our girls' placards. How? Why? And of course, the Mrs. Obama received one of those placards. I cannot take responsibility for the abduction. I don't control Boko Haram. They are criminals. But as a president, of course, you know, it's not the president that go to the field. You have security and intelligence officers that do the work. Let me admit that, yes, maybe they do their best, but their best was not good enough for us to recover the girls. That does not mean that I'm trying to remove myself from any blame. Yes, I may not be blamed for the action, but I could be blamed that my security and intelligence systems are not strong enough to be able to rescue.
Do you come with two teachers? You were not informed too? Continue. No problem. God will see us. There is God. There is God in everything we are doing. Those bloods that are sharing in Pronu will answer. What of two teachers, Wyatt, what of two teachers that can tell us that they conducted that exam? Do you come with any? Principal? No, too. You waka come. Okay. Now the first lady is calling you, come, I want to help you. Come to find your child, your missing child. Will you keep quiet? No. Child. There is God, oh. There is God, oh. The bloods we are sharing, there is God, oh. There is God, oh. There is God, oh. There is God.